Hey guys, MichaelBtheGameGenie here. I am a bit of a butt of a joke in the community as the guy that buys every single Arcade1Up cabinet. But, as much fun as that is to say, it's not factually accurate. So in today's video, let's take a look at the ones I didn't buy and why. So that's right guys, happy Friday. I figured we'd do something just a little bit more fun today and a little bit different. Spread some positivity instead of some negativity in this community. So what I wanted to talk about today is I get a lot of jokes thrown my way as a guy that buys every single Arcade1Up. And you know what? It's deserved. I've bought a lot of them. I've been very fortunate that I can afford to do it, and I don't know what to say. I don't have any excuse or anything like that. I just really dig these things and I like buying them. So I've bought most of them, but I haven't bought them all. And what I wanted to do in this video is clear that up and show you some of the cabs that I actually haven't purchased and why. Some are very simple reasons of they just weren't available here in Canada and I couldn't get them. And then some it's a little bit more complex and based on my tastes. Anyways, let's take a look at the cabinets. So for this, to do it right, we got to go all the way back to Wave 1. And I've said a million times that during Wave 1, I only intended, of the machines that were actually released, to buy the Street Fighter Championship Edition cabinet. In fact, I bought it, and I refused to buy a riser at the time. I was like, no, that's enough money. You just need this little tiny arcade machine in the corner. And that's the only one I had right up until Wave 3. So I let everything else pass me by. But over time, I ended up picking up other cabinets from Wave 1. I picked up Rampage secondhand, as you guys may know, and I found a new in-box Centipede at the end of Wave 3, which I had for many years and loved. But I actually didn't purchase the two here in the middle. I never got the Galaga arcade machine just because I never saw one available after Galaga had kind of went out of stock. So after I got more interested in playing the classic score-chasing games, I just never saw another Galaga cabinet. I have heard from the people, because there was a ton of people that I know that picked up $50 ones in the US, that they love it, but it's just Galaga and Galaxian, and I eventually got these games on other cabinets. The PacMan cabinet is one I also missed out on, but one I almost got much later. PacMan was here, available in Walmart, available in a couple other stores. It's just not something I gravitated towards at the time. However, when I really got back into Arcade1Up, when I had Street Fighter and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I was just about to turn the corner on going all in on this, they had these up to Costco, Price Club, whatever you want to call it, and they had them on sale for about $300, and I almost pulled the trigger on one then. I'm glad I waited, because just a couple months later, they announced the PacMan 40th Edition cabinet, which, in my opinion, was superior to this, especially with the game lineup. Unfortunately, it did have that Vaseline filter as well. One of the Wave 1 cabinets that I didn't see listed here on the Arcade1Up page that I also missed out on was the Asteroids cabinet. And if you go watch my buddy Restalgia's video on this, I'm kind of glad I did, because apparently this cabinet was terrible. The spinners didn't work right. The games didn't work well on the cabinet. It's got some great games, Asteroids, Major Havoc, Lunar Lander, Tempest, but for whatever reason, this cab just was not a winner. It's got great art, like that Asteroids art is iconic, and the control panel looks good, but apparently this wasn't a good cabinet. I just missed it. Another one that I didn't see listed on the Arcade1Up site was the original 12-in-1 cabinet. One side is Centipede with black artwork instead of white, and the other one is the Asteroids artwork again. Came with 12 games, the precursor to the current 12-in-1. I guess this is the original Legacy cab. There's a picture from the other side. It's got that half-and-half artwork that I don't like from another cabinet we'll talk about later. But, a lot of people love this. This was the Holy Grail cabinet for a lot of people for a long time, until the Tempest Atari Legacy cabinet came out and made this one inconsequential. The next one that I never picked up isn't one that I didn't pick up because I didn't want it, and I had heard all the complaints about it. I saw the amazing deals where you could pick up this and Star Wars Battlefront for I think it was $50 in the US, and that was the Space Invaders cabinet. However, the reason why I never got it is it was never available here in Canada. We just never had an opportunity. We never had an opportunity until just last year, late last year, a small quantity ended up at Costco here in Canada that you could buy. But of course, it came with no riser, no light up marquee, and unfortunately, I just never picked it up. Taito Space Invaders is a cabinet I hope Arcade1Up does again. Maybe a Taito Legacy cab somewhere down the line. That artwork is iconic. I mean, that game is fantastic. It's just, it would be nice to see it in a more traditional arcade cabinet with some of the bells and whistles we expect nowadays from Arcade1Up. So I never got Space Invaders, but mainly because it just wasn't available here. This one's quick and easy. I never got any of the cocktail tables, just because I wasn't really super interested. The only one I was pretty close to getting was the PacMan Black Series cocktail table, and that's only because Costco had them on sale for really cheap. At one point, $3.99 I think it was, might have even been as low as $3.49 Canadian. So I was thinking about adding the cocktail table, but honestly, I'm glad I didn't. I prefer the 3/4 scale cabinets, and I've never understand the head-to-head cocktail fighters. That just doesn't make sense to me. Why would you want to play a fighting game on an even smaller screen back-to-back like that? That doesn't seem like a good form factor. I don't get it. So this is where this video finally gets a little bit more interesting, because it's not a lot of I missed out, or it's not a lot of it wasn't available here in Canada. This is just basically an opportunity to tell you these are some of the cabinets I decided weren't worth my money, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting. It's not so much that it wasn't worth my money. I'm not trying to say anybody who bought it made a mistake, but Big Buck Hunter is one that didn't appeal to me. I mean, what I'm doing down in my arcade is I'm trying to rebuild an arcade like I remember from the 80s and 90s, a classic arcade. And when I think of Big Buck Hunter, I don't actually think of arcade. It's the same thing as Golden Tee. I had a Golden Tee cabinet, but it ended up not getting a lot of play, and it just didn't feel right, fit in my arcade. So I ended up turfing it, because I attribute both those games more to going to like a pool hall or a bar. You might see one of those there, but you wouldn't really necessarily see them in a kid's 80s arcade, which is 80s, 90s arcade, which what I'm trying to recreate. And it killed me too, because I wanted a gun game so badly. So the only option at the time was Big Buck Hunter, and I really thought about it. I had it in my cart a couple times to go by and managed to talk myself out of it. At one point, I knew it was going up in price here in Canada, up $50, and I went out and I almost bought it, but I managed to hold off, and I'm glad I did, because eventually Arcade1Up released another gun game, and now I have a gun game in my collection. The Pong Pub Table. Well, I think this one should be an easy one for people. They call me on the show the 3/4 scale diva, so it should be pretty straightforward on why I didn't pick this one up, and that's because it's not a 3/4 scale arcade. If they had released a Pong 3/4 scale arcade done off the original Pong, I don't think I would have been super interested, but I will be honest with you, I would have found it hard to resist just because of the arcade history. I think that would have been a better move than this. Although I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this. This is a beautiful artwork. This exemplifies the 70s and 80s to me, the transition from 70s to 80s. But I would have preferred a recreation of the original Pong arcade cabinet. You can see this is getting clearanced out now. I don't know if we'll see another pub table from Arcade1Up. So it's a cool idea. Throw shit at the wall, but I would have rather seen this in a 3/4 scale cabinet. And here we go. We're into the current lineup of cabinets that just came out. And a lot of people are like, oh, Mike, there's still time. You can still go to the store and buy it. I won't be buying this one. And it should be pretty clear. I have the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade1Up cabinet. This cabinet has the exact same games. The biggest difference, of course, is the fact that the games in this cabinet are online. But honestly, that wasn't enough of a drawing factor to get me to buy it. But I'll preface that. Maybe it's not enough of a factor, because if this had the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles artwork that I'm so nostalgic for on this cabinet in this better form factor with the online option, I may have sold my original TMNT cabinet and bought this one. But because it had Turtles in Time, I just don't have the nostalgia for that one. I couldn't pull the trigger, so I didn't buy the new Turtles in Time. Although people that did buy it seem very happy with it, and it does have cool artwork. It didn't have that nostalgic artwork that I was looking for that the original cabinet did. And the Miss PacMan Galaga Class of 81 arcade machine. And you know what? This is a cool cabinet. I'm so happy they did it for all the people that wanted it, but this just did not appeal to me. If anybody missed out on Miss Pac-Man, this is obviously a great option to get, but what kills me here is this half and half artwork. I don't like it. Arcade1Up did a great job of recreating the half and half artwork cabinet, but it just didn't do the jam for me. And the biggest reason I didn't get this one is kind of the same reason I didn't get Big Buck Hunter and I didn't keep Golden Tee. As much as people say, oh, these are arcade classics, this cabinet is actually a recreation of a game that I never even saw in the 80s and 90s arcades. In fact, it was I think it was 20th anniversary cabinet that came out in 2001. And my nostalgia for this, again, comes from maybe a bar, but what I remember it mostly was from being in swimming pools connected to hotels and being in hotels. It was a nostalgia piece, but had nothing to do with the original arcade. So the nostalgia and the arcade recreation that I was looking for in my arcade, this just missed the mark on that. I'm glad they did it for all the people that wanted it, but this one wasn't for me. And even though it had the appeal of bringing these, it had a great lineup, amazing lineup, except a King of Balloon, and it had online leaderboards for these games, but I just couldn't bring myself to sell my Miss Pac-Man that looked perfect and replace it with this one. So guys, like I said, I haven't bought every single Arcade1Up has released, just most of them. Anyways, I thought this would just be a fun little look today to go back and look at the cabinets I didn't buy and why. I think I got all of them. If I'm missing anything, like I know there was an Asteroids Deluxe that was a Walmart exclusive in the US that only had 6 games. I didn't buy that one either, obviously for the exact same reason I mentioned. I'm in Canada and I can't, but mainly if I didn't buy something, it was because it just didn't have that nostalgia for me. Now, I'll admit, my FOMO is strong, probably stronger than anybody else's, and I've bought a lot of stuff, but I'm trying to be a little bit more selective going forward, especially with the new baby coming. But yet, I say this on the exact same day I just went out and bought T2. Anyways, we'll talk about that more another time. Anyways, let me know what you think in the video. Do you think that my reasons for not buying those cabinets make sense? Are you surprised that there's so many Arcade1Up cabinets I, in fact, didn't buy? And did you think the narrative was true that I bought every cabinet? And let me know in the comments if there's certain cabinets you didn't buy and why. I'd be interested in hearing your reasoning, too. Anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for watching today. Just a little bit of Friday fun. This is Michael B. the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time.